western Michigan and northern Indiana. But the two groups that mainly were up here were the Ottawa and the Ojibwe. And they lived here and had their culture. Ottawa in the mid 18th century had villages out here, and they grew corn and maize and so forth, and eventually moved down towards the Lake of Roche, which is present-day Cross Village. And over in the Upper Peninsula across the St. Ignace was a mission, St. Ignace, where Father Marquette initially started. And they had a French garrison over there for up until 1701, and then that was moved to Detroit, and they came back. But during all that time, this was all wilderness west here. And Michilimackinac was the crossroads, as you know, of everything west, because everything had to come through Michilimackinac to go to Detroit or straight across Canada, Upper Canada, to Montreal. And so the traders would come out, and there were two groups. There were the Coeurs de Bois, which are represented by these various gentlemen here and ladies, and they were what called the unlicensed traders. They used the French military troops, the Compagnies de la Marine, and they were one of the various French military groups that were garrisoned at outposts out here. The French Marines were ones that were really sent to the far edges of the western, then the northwestern frontier, and a lot of their garrisons, they would have only like 5 or 6 soldiers there to help police the traders and so forth. The regiment that actually came up here first was the 60th Royal Americans Regiment, which was actually a British unit that was raised here in the American colonies during the French and Indian War. And they were mostly raised from men in Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland who were all Swiss or German settlers. So the British hired a lot of foreign mercenary officers from Switzerland and Germany to speak their language. But it was a purely American colony regiment. Ladies of the period. Now, most of the initial women population here were of French descent. Compagnie out. Compagnie à droite, droite. Compagnie repoussez les armes. Compagnie repoussez les armes. The Tasman de repos, retournez à la troupe.
The canoe was a fine example of Anishinaabeg craftsmanship that was adopted by the French. The strength of many was required to not only paddle the canoe, but also to portage the canoe and its cargo around any existing rapids, waterfalls, or shallow water. It could handle up to 6,000 pounds of cargo and fly swiftly over the water with a crew of 6 to 8 men. An elapsed time of about 30 minutes has often been recorded from this launch point here at Fort Michilimackinac all the way to Mackinaw Island. Today's modern ferry boats are only twice that fast. It is interesting to note that the concept of the canoe has not changed in more than 400 years. The Anishinaabe exchanged their furs for many things from the voyageurs, traders, and the commander of the fort. There were colorful and very practical trade blankets, salt, spices, and other food supplements made from fine steel, and even the common pin. Ornamental beads and information were also trade items. Today, the muzzle-loading gun is being offered to a visiting native group and will become an important tool for hunting or defense against their enemies. The range and accuracy of this carefully tooled weapon greatly increase the potential for a successful hunt. He carefully measures the charge, pours the powder into the barrel, places the patch and ball, gives them a short start, cuts the excess patch, and now he rams home the charge with the ramrod. And all that remains is to prime the pan, and the gun is ready for firing. And although it might first appear that the procedure for loading takes a long time, the men who use these weapons quickly developed a rapid procedure as well as a degree of accuracy that is still respected today.
Company, halt! Company, to the left, face! Company, ghost, ghost! What is this? Where did you get that goat? Take it out! Take that up! Take it off! Take it off! Get that goat up! Get off! What? Company, ghost, ghost. Company, repoussez les armes. Company, armes à la terre. Détachement du drapeau, amenez le drapeau. Commander Langley, in the name of His Majesty King George III, I hereby take command of this fort. And for your personal bravery, I will return your sword and will allow your men to retain their arms. Company, shoulder your firelocks!
And so the French governmental and support forces now take active leave of Fort Michilimackinac. No longer will the fleur-de-lis fly over this land, but the voyageurs, many of the French-Canadian traders, and some of the soldiers remain. For example, Lieutenant Langlade remains at Michilimackinac. In time, most of the French will work for British traders and merchants. The English language will now become a part of more and more conversations.
Everyone dies.
They are acting in retaliation for the death of one of their people at the hands of the Menominee.
He lifted his arms.
Both the white man and the Ojibwe are disturbed by what has happened. One of the most clever war strategies ever devised, comparing most favorably with the Trojan horse episode. The British might easily have realized that such heavy attire worn by the women at this time of year was out of season. But these women were holding under their blankets the instruments of battle, tomahawks, knives, and guns for the later use by their men, and played in the schools and colleges of Canada and the United States. But the way these warriors played, it was more like mass mayhem. In fact, it was often called Little Brother of War, for serious injuries and even death happened in these games.
Oops.
Each player was equipped with a stick that had webbing at one end. The object was to use the stick to catch, carry, and throw a small stuffed leather ball and to hit the post at the opponent's end of the field, which could be as far as a half-mile apart.
Oops.
The ball is thrown into play and the game is on. But the game is merely a part of the plan Mackinac devised for the capture of the fort. He realizes the power of the cannons in the blockhouses, and he also knows that surprise is crucial for the success of his plan. The ball is to go over the stockade wall 3 times. The first time, no Ojibwe will go after it. The second time, one tribesman will enter the fort and try to get the ball. If this man is allowed in, then the third time the ball goes over, a group of players will go after the ball and thus be inside for the attack. In order to ensure that there is no mistake, Mackinac will put the ball into play prior to the third time. That's when the attack is to begin. The ball is over the wall. A few tribesmen are allowed into the fort. And now the heavily blanketed women, who are really human arsenal, drop the blankets to reveal the weapons they are hiding. The warriors take them quickly. The clever deception has worked. The plot has succeeded and the attack is on.
They're all dead.
Alexander Henry, who was inside the fort when the attack began, later wrote in his diary,
"Going instantly to the window, I saw a crowd of Indians within the fort furiously cutting down and scalping every Englishman they found. I had in the room in which I was a fowling piece loaded with swan shot. This I immediately seized and held for a moment, waiting to hear the drum beat to arms. In this dreadful interval, I saw several of them who, holding him in this manner, stabbed him while yet living."
A young British soldier sticks his head out of the blockhouse window in time to see a warrior try to lower the flag to desecrate it, and he shoots him in a last act of patriotism in the moment before he himself was killed. Henry Bostwick wrote that he saw a soldier running just outside the gate toward the open door of the French home, with the warriors in hot pursuit. The soldier was struck on the head and killed. The plan of Mackinac had succeeded. It was all over in a few moments. Captain Etherington and Lieutenant Leslie are taken prisoner. Lieutenant Jamay and other British soldiers have been killed. Ezekiel Solomon, Henry Bostwick, and Alexander Henry are taken captive after being discovered hiding in an attic. For the survivors, the outlook is bleak indeed. The French, however, are unharmed. Eventually, the British power and influence returned to the area to retake the fort. And for the next 50 years, the British, French, and Anishinaabe continued to struggle for dominance. However, they all were defeated in the westward movement by the new United States. And what happened to the 3 original ethnic groups? The British and French either left the country or were assimilated in the American society. The original inhabitants, the Anishinaabe, remained in the Straits area, and to this day their descendants honor tribal culture and traditions. History does not stop, but continues even to the present time, where we all make contributions, small or large, good or bad. History can be a great teacher, but if we choose not to apply what we've learned from the past, countless lives that were lost will have been lost in vain. Today, we know that the Pontiac conflict against the British was a war here at the Straits of Mackinac to preserve the Ojibwe and Odawa culture and way of life. Both sides committed wrongs against each other, but we can all learn new lessons to promote better understanding and acceptance of all cultures. Learning to live together and in harmony is our challenge for the present and the future. The great American poet Longfellow understood this lesson when he wrote in the Song of Hiawatha, "All your strength is in your union, all your danger is in discord. Therefore be at peace henceforward, and as brothers live together." We thank you today, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing with us this page of the illustrious history of Michilimackinac.